So X has been my conduit to good news for months and months and months. And it seems like maybe in the last few days or week, I am now being bombarded with stuff like this, like ancient video clips, something to the tune of from the 70s, 80s, whatever, about weird things like human salt batteries or something along these lines. Lucas, are you getting this kind of stuff? Is it just that I found myself in the weird corner of the internet somehow because we've covered the wrong things on this show and said the wrong things and now the algorithm thinks this is what I want? Or are you getting the same stuff? Or maybe we're both in the same boat because we've both been talking about the same stuff.
We could be in the deepest silo of all of X. I got exactly this clip also in my feed, and amongst the bizarre things, and I likewise was impressed with X's AI, sort of sorting through their tweets and pulling out good news events. And there's certainly not a dearth of news events going on all around the world right now. And yet, I get the same sort of old videos, human salt battery. I get animal videos. I get cat videos. I get fight videos.
I get an inordinate amount of stuff about UAPs, and I mean not like modern UAP stuff, but like really old UFO style stuff that's on the level of Bigfoot footage.
I mean, I do get those. I'm constantly giving feedback to X for its AI or algorithm, whatever, to pick up, because I only follow accounts that I think are interesting. Usually they're political accounts, and I actually follow a lot. I don't know, not I actually think a lot of these politicians are interesting, but I do think they are powerful, and I want to know what they're talking about. But I don't even get that information. Like when I go to the who I'm following, um I get a couple of different accounts, and that is it. And
I agree. Even for the accounts I'm following, I feel like if I go to like just look at the feed of people that I'm following, I don't feel like I get half of the stuff that I should be getting because I'm following these individuals. Like if they post something, reply to something, or repost something, that I would expect that I'd be seeing all of the information that they're doing. But it seems like that's not the case because when I go and look at an account I'm following, I see a whole bunch of content that I know never came across.
Yeah, I've been going to. I mean, I follow Thomas Massey. I want to know what he's saying. I've had to literally go to his account and pull him up to see what he's saying. I do always get Mike Lee. I get a lot of his tweets. I like what he has to say. I know he's been pushing the Save Act pretty heavily lately. Yay! But there's any number of. I don't get Anna Paulina Luna. I'm interested in what she's got going on. I had to.
I don't get AOC anymore. I used to get AOC. Now I don't see her anymore either. Like I don't agree with her, but I want to know what she's saying.
Funny that you mentioned that, because I don't get AOC either anymore, and I don't agree with her, but I'm always trying to keep a finger on like the leaders of the various political factions in the country, and I don't get that. And I don't know if the algorithm is overwhelmed as we move into the AI is overwhelmed as we move into the final sprint into debates. I don't know what's going on, but it's been sad, to borrow Trumpism. It's very sad, that something that I thought was sort of a breakthrough news piece, news revelation has become so trashy, quite honestly.
And it seemed like it happened pretty quickly. Like I know there were certain things that have been said from Elon Musk that they were going in investigating the algorithm, that they were reviewing certain things that were there that seemed odd. They were deleting things, making changes. So we've heard rumblings that they're goofing around with this stuff. And particularly, there was that evidence that Kennedy couldn't get any more followers and that he had been, this weird shadow ban had happened to him, or like for whatever reason, the platform wasn't allowing him to have the sort of organic growth that they expected his account to go through. And then Elon said, "Hey, we removed some specific stuff that was causing this to occur." And then there were some other statements about the algorithm, and now it's devolved into this morass of really weird stuff. And it seems like this is all getting shoveled onto the platform, right? Because people have to actually be going up and dredging up this footage, like finding it. They got to upload it onto the platform. I mean, this is happening because, I would imagine people are getting reach, they're getting response from this kind of stuff. So the platform is definitely amplifying certain types of content based on something, and that something seems to have changed pretty radically in the last couple of weeks.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up the the announcement of the removal of the 3 million follower limit for Bobby Kennedy, because it was right around then that I began to notice that the content of uh, of the X, like news, the Explore function, and even just my feed, um, that it took a nosedive. And part of that is, you can scroll through, and very quickly, whenever scrolling through, I get like the same, maybe the same 20 or 30 different news items that keep resurfacing. And so I think that's part of the problem. You know, a couple of days after uh, they announced that lifting of the quote unquote hidden shadow ban on Bobby Kennedy. There was another account that I saw that sort of had done a deep dive into the algorithm, um, how to get your tweets out. I don't know. Like it's also interesting that everyone talks about. I mean, we have what's going on in Brazil right now. We've had the Durov, which we should probably talk about that at some point today too. Telegram and Durov, with France, X being banned in Brazil by Judge Macio, or whomever his name was. Um, and we talk about the beneficence of Elon Musk and Pavel Durov, but I can't help but wonder, am I shadow banned? I have, not a massive follower account. I got 2,000 and something followers. But I was talking to another friend who has 1,000 followers the other day, and he said, "Yeah, I tweet and I get 10 responses, I get 10 comments, I get 40 likes." And I was like, "Well, I don't think anybody see. Maybe everybody mutes me because I like respond to political content, and people don't want to engage in political conversations." That could very well be.
I can't imagine that that's actually the case, because I know a lot of people who were specifically on X because they wanted that type of content. I mean, I'm here for that. The reason that I originally gravitated towards X, because there were thought leaders here and they would say things here first, and oftentimes those thought leaders were people who were running big companies or were responsible for big companies or for emerging companies, startups, whatever, and politicians, and people were saying interesting things on X. That's why I was here. And so I just can't imagine that, like, the people that were on X that I know have said this type of stuff suddenly decided that they didn't want that type of content. And I know that there's like another thing that tracks what X thinks you're interested in. Have you ever gone through your interests on X? Do you know where that's at?
No, actually, I don't.
Okay, well, check this out. So if you go into your account, so if you tap on your face in the upper left or your icon in the upper left, and you go to settings and privacy.
Okay, I'm actually doing this right now. Following yes there.
Yep. And then go to privacy and safety. And then
Okay.
go to content you see.
Okay.
There's 3 headings here: topics, interests, and explore settings. I think interest is the one that's driving a lot of what's going on here. And so you're going to see some really messed up stuff when you start looking through what X thinks you're interested in. Like one of the headings that I have in here is baby animals. It's like, okay, I'm not interested in baby animals, like not at all. So I'm going to uncheck that. But you know, it will pick up like maybe if I pause scrolling through my feed and I'm like, wait, what is this? Like, because I'm trying to decide that I don't like this, and suddenly it decides, well, I've interacted with that content, and so yeah, I should see more baby animals. I don't want to see baby animals. Like that shouldn't be on my feed. And so I routinely go into this interest and uncheck tons of stuff because I'm not interested in any of this stuff. And it keeps piling more of this garbage in here, and I keep trying to get rid of it. And it's like I don't want you to do this. I want this to stop. Like stop trying to figure out what I'm interested in. I will tell you what I'm interested in. And it's none of this crap.
I mean, I'm scrolling down through the list on mine, and Noel Gallagher. I like there's a bunch of there's crap in here that I'm not just not interested in, but nonplussed by. That I know that I've hidden in my feed. Why would it be forcing it on me? Um, but no, I did not know this was here. It's interesting to hear that it does repopulate. I'm not interested in Bill Gates. I'm not
Yeah.
interested in 7,000 different ticker symbols of coins that I've never heard of.
Yeah, and so if you go in here and you start unchecking these things, right? You do it en masse, then sometimes you'll get this little message that says X is overwhelmed at the moment. And it won't save the settings. So all the unchecks that you do, they'll all be lost. So then you come back in here and they'll still be there.
Interesting that you mentioned that because recently, for about a week, I have been unable to post anything from my desktop. I have to post from my phone, and if I do post from my desktop, it says it prompts me to associate a phone number with my account. Have you had that sort of experience with it?
When I get one of those, I can't arc rose challenges or whatever, sometimes I'll get those if I'm trying to DM somebody I haven't interacted with before. That's the only time something like that comes up.
Hmm.
Rusty, I'm curious about your experiences. Did you get a chance to navigate into your interests? Is there a whole bunch of junk in there that you're not interested in? Are you furiously unchecking things?
No, I haven't been able to guide my way into there yet, but I will check that out after I get off. But it is interesting on the amount of stuff that has been coming through my feed lately on X. And you guys are right. It is very recently. And I don't know if it's got anything to do with political, but I do know that Kamala Harris was saying that she was trying to attack X or attack Elon Musk now that he's kind of teamed or partnered with Trump. And she's saying that, X is too powerful. We got to restrict what X can allow you to see. We can't allow X to be so uh, um, infiltrate into people's lives. And I don't know if she might be having any of these good three-letter companies or groups that we like to associate with the government having to do anything with just polluting up the feed of X just to see what's happening before the election.
Well, we have talked about I believe the DNC or the Harris campaign or politicos writ large interfering with Polymarket. If X is the go-to for, and not only, I mean, if that X is the go-to for news, the political sphere, and the place that has resisted interference by CISA, by I'll just say CISA or the blob, like other platforms have colluded with the Biden administration in doing. Perhaps they are doing some sort of Cambridge Analytica, like outsized manipulation of the algorithm to try to rile people up. I don't know that it would seem. I would say, like, I don't know why they would do so with the results that have happened in the past. Hashtag again Cambridge Analytica, but I mean, how many times has it happened and we're not aware of it? But yeah, I'm also looking through my topics, and if this is what X thinks of me, then it doesn't know me at all. Like, the topics that it has me following, several of them, not only am I not interested in, I'm like disgusted by. So I
Right.
won't, yeah, I won't go through, but there, if I start unclicking now, then it's going to be through the rest of the episode that here it does say that I like paleontology. Okay, yes, I do. I really enjoy paleontology. The number of articles that I've seen that deal with archaeology or paleontology that aren't bizarre conspiracy theories about the Nazca lines or the pyramids of Egypt, are about zero. You know, the I do get the cultural tutor. I wonder what the cult. That's the only. That's the only, and it's usually more about architecture, like pretty buildings, more so than any news that's dropped in the world of archaeology and paleontology. So, uh, as you mentioned, the following thought leaders, I definitely came here also to follow thought leaders a long time ago. Gave up on it after a while, but in the awarded blue checkmark days, um, because of all of the problems with who was being doled out those and who was being selected to be promoted in the algorithm. You would think that, but like by merits, that we could have that happen. Do you try Truth Social, or any other? The X is really the only one that I use, but I, I
I agree. It was the only one I was using. I didn't check out Truth Social or Gab or any of those because honestly, I don't want to just see content of people I agree with. In fact, in my opinion, the most important thing I can do on social media or something like X is to get access to the people who I disagree with. Like that's what I want to see more than anything else. I do not want to just be in an echo chamber of people that are saying what I believe in. I want to be challenged on my ideas and I want to hear what everybody else is saying. And even if I look at it and say, I don't agree with what you're saying, I want to know that they're saying it. So no, those are too siloed. Like I don't want to be on those because I don't want to be around other people that are just like me or that would have similar views. And I'm not even sure that that's right. Like honestly, that might not even be the case. Like I don't even know if I would agree with the people that are on there, but I certainly don't want to be in a place that's not ostensibly neutral. Like that's what I want more than anything. I want to be on the neutral playing field where anybody can have an idea and say it, and that we're not trying to silence the left or the right or any kind of weird crackpot ideas. But I definitely want to be able to control whether I continuously see this crackpot stuff. Like that's the thing that I need to be in control of my own algorithm.
I you know I've never tried Gab. It might be the most interesting because in the wake of the Pavel Durov, and I don't know if you saw. Did you happen to see the Mike Benz post in the wake of Pavel Durov posting in his Telegram group channel that he was back and what had happened there? There's an interesting Mike Benz post about that.
I was following some of the Pavel Durov stuff, like particularly the thing that caught my eye was that they arrested the wrong guy, that it was the technical brother that had more to do with like what was really happening behind the scenes at Telegram than anything else. And that was the only part that seemed interesting about the story to me because I just never used that platform. I just wasn't something I was that interested in.
Well, there was there were some posts that were going on that said, haha, Pavel's brother is the one who came up with the cybersecurity and has the keys. But when Pavel Durov was released, he sent a long message out to the users of Telegram, and it sort of went into details about how unhappy he was Then also they changed the terms of use for Telegram,
I did see that. Yes.
and Pavel Durov in that message said, Telegram does have somebody to talk to, somebody in Europe to contact, to take content down, to report content about. And his message was, I'm going to be more clear. I'm going to he doesn't say he says Telegram is going to be more clear and to try to work with governments to work with governments who with their concerns about content, and then and in the license agreement with Telegram that was updated to remove that the chats were end-to-end encrypted. Did you see that?
I did.
So, and we think, this is why I was glad when we had Michael Taylor on with his Chia data layer. Why I was so interested in Midnight with Cardano, until we are hosting our own content and have better options. Like it's a very real thing that there are people to target who are in control of these companies, and the government has any number, or we don't know. We don't know what kind of pressure is being put upon them.
Well, here's a better question, or maybe not better than that, but here's a question that comes to my mind. All this video stuff, right? Let's even just take this salt battery thing, right? Who's got this footage just sitting around in their house? Like, where did that come from?
I mean, there's that. There's so much. That is a great question. And why do we see some of this?
I mean, you know what it takes to like get something on X, right? You have to sit there and think about it. You've got to, prep the data file so it's in the right spot. Then you have to upload it. You got to wait, and then you actually got to post it. And then, it could be hit or miss. Maybe somebody sees it, maybe they don't. And so, who's going to spend all their time going through old? Because this has got to be VHS footage, right? So you'd have to get out your VHS tape. You got to find the right spot. You got to upload it, digitize it, get it into the right place, upload it into X, and then for what end? To probably not have it be seen, to have nobody ever look at it, and just be a complete waste of your time. Like who's going to do that? But yet there's just reams and hours and thousands of posts that are getting pushed up here. It's like who's doing all this?
Well, and that's what I actually wonder. Like, is it some person who is trying to build an account? Which we haven't even talked about the Krasensteins. I don't know if we want to go there, but somebody who's trying to build an account and just looking around for content that has been forgotten, or is so obscure because they don't have anything new to add to the current horizons of thought. I don't, or is it like we were saying earlier? Is it nation states who are trying to confuse the narrative to draw our eyes away from?
It's got to be that. It has to be. Like, think about it for a minute. Like, if you're just the average Joe Schmo, you're working a job, whatever, maybe like being on X is a lark, like you may post occasionally. But I think I've seen stats on what is it, the content generators on social media sites like Reddit, that people who actually post content are so abysmally low, the actual content generators, that if you're one of them, you're in the most abnormal of all abnormal groups of all time, like the people who actually post. And the people who respond or comment are just in a slightly, bigger sphere than that, but like still super small. Most people are lurkers or consumers. And so to see this amount of content coming out, suddenly, and like weird stuff like salt batteries and ether and fringe scientific ideas and whatever. And this footage, this the only way for this stuff to exist, because if a lot of this stuff was pre-YouTube, then that meant that somebody had to have this on media, and they have to like spend time taking it off that media and getting it in to digitally prep it. Like, who has the time and capacity to do this kind of stuff when so many Americans are saying they're just having a hard time getting by, working 2, 3 jobs and wanting to spend a little bit of time with their family? It can't be that this is just normal individuals that are doing this. It just doesn't pass the sniff test. Doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's pretty compelling that you bring up the number of people who are actually content contributors and who are lurkers, who are consumers. I mean, it's the same for Wikipedia. It's the same all over the internet. Um, and again, we're going into an election season. It was amazing to me that the Bureau of Labor and Statistics revised their jobs numbers and knocked them down 800,000 jobs, and that wasn't. It should have been all over traditional forms of media. It should have been all over X.
Well,
And
and the disappearance of stories too. Like, what happened a couple of weeks ago with the Iran attack? I thought Iran said that they were going to attack Israel. What happened?
I 100% agree. And Iran did say that they were going to attack Israel. I have also seen some.
So is that narrative buried? Did they actually do something and we just didn't hear about it? Or was it just saber rattling? I mean, what happened there? Like, the lack of follow through on significant stories, because to me, that kind of a story is significant. Like, if a major nation says we are going to get involved in a war and we are going to be backed by Russia, right? Because I remember Russia saying, "Yeah, we're going to support this attack." And then what? It just didn't happen? It's not reported? Like, I can't find any details on what actually occurred there, but it was definitely being talked about for a little while, and now it's gone.
Well, and I don't want to get too sidetracked by that because it's I don't know. You have to dig. You have to dig. What do you use to dig anymore? Do you use Google? Do you use Amazon? Other
You can't. You
platforms?
can't. I've tried searching for stuff on Google. It's absolutely garbage now. It
I
gets nothing. It's riddled with pointers to Reddit and other social media generated content, and I just don't even think that like what I'm getting for search results is any good anymore. So you can't Google stuff. I started to search on X. X was a place that you could go type a few keywords and you could get some relevant content, but that's degraded now. I don't even know that you can do that anymore.
Well, and I think part of the problem was it became a place with an opening of truth or uh, of of a place that did not have a large amount of manipulation with the information that we could find, but that was a problem. And so, uh, instead of attacking X from the corporate offices, it looks like it's being done through artificial content generation. Um, and
Right.
it
So let's just look at this account for a second. So this account looks like it's old, right? 2021,
sort of old, yeah, not that old.
oldish. I don't know. I don't trust these numbers at all anymore. I no longer trust this. Like, if I see a number like this, I'm like, this could be completely astroturfed, and there's no way to introspect it. If you click on this, like, what can you do? You can scroll through a couple of pages and then look, it just stops. Like, how am I even supposed to like figure this out? Like, I can scroll through a few pages and then it doesn't let me do anything.
Which along those lines, all of the followers that I've got, when I'm in a room and there's a spaces room and there's a bunch of people and I say something with gravitas, I know that maybe some of those followers are real, but I would say the last 2 weeks of followers that I've gotten are I doubt that any of them are real.
This is the kind of inversion that I look for, right? Like, look at how many people you would have had to have followed, and I'm not saying this our particular account is fake, but like when you see this kind of a thing, like I see this constantly. Like some account will have like 5,000 followers and it'll have like 5 people that are following it. Like that, like it takes a long time to tap 1,475 times. Like, can you imagine like how many seconds of your life does it take you to follow this many people?
Couple of years.
Well, I mean, it's not an insignificant amount. It's a daunting task to get to, some thousands of numbers of people that you're following. And to what end, right? Like, why would you follow this many people? Like, like, the human brain is not capable of holding on to 1,000 pieces of discrete information. Like, if you were to ask a person, like, do you know 1,000 discrete pieces of information? And specifically, can you think of 1,000 accounts that you should follow? I doubt that that's really possible within human cognition. So for this thing to reach up to like 5,000 or something like that, that's just beyond anything that's normal. And so these types of inversions, when you start to see it, and then you see lots of accounts like that, like I see these fake accounts. It's like, oh, there's some scantily clad girl that's whatever. She's got 1,000 accounts she's following, and 5 are following it, and it's got some banal posts. It's like this is obviously a fake account.
Yeah, there are those, but then there's also like so many of these that have just a endless number of reposts of bizarre conspiracy theories, or no, I would say not even conspiracy theories. There's no theory there. It's just snippets of fringe information that's not tied together in, what do these people actually care about. So yeah, I think that I think X must be under attack by account creation. And I don't think it's Russia, to be honest.
It's I like what has Kennedy taught us? If it's not anything, it's the CIA or the FBI. It's one of the 3-letter acronyms. It's got to be. I mean,
Well, and we have seen, I mean, we've seen Kamala Harris openly talking about how X is a problem, how content and speech should be moderated. It should be an expectation of the platforms to be doing that, and the government seems to have, especially since 2020, been under the understanding that manipulating the reach or the what people see is some sort of gray area that's not limiting speech. I see it differently.
I would agree with that. I think we're well past the time where we need to have a mechanism where this type of information sharing can occur, right? I think that that's important, and then being able to distinguish real human activity from whatever is whatever this garbage is that's happening on these platforms, like this manipulation. If it's a wholesale Sybil attack, right, where fake accounts are being created to astroturf certain types of content to distract people from what's really going on, right? Because I'm interested in real political discourse. Like that's one of the reasons I'm on X. I'm also very interested in scientific stuff. Like remember when what is it, the LK99 thing, and like we were thinking maybe we had room temperature semiconductors or room temperature superconductors. Remember when that was happening? Was it early this year or late last year?
Uh-huh.
That's what I want from X. That's what I want from X. I want real political discourse. I want groundbreaking science. I could put some high level buckets around the kinds of stuff that I'm interested in. And I don't know why X suddenly thinks that I'm interested in baby animals. Like there's nothing about anything that I have done or said that makes an indication that I am interested in baby animals. How could that algorithm possibly think that? I do not care about baby animals. I mean, they're cute, whatever, but like I don't care about that. That's not why I'm here.
Yeah, well, I 100% agree. I think that we must be under a Sybil attack. I'm also thinking about the blue check mark and how cheap the blue check mark is, and how I have probably to erroneously or to my peril have relied on blue check marks for like proof of identity, or proof of reality in some of these accounts. But when it's $8 a month you're going into election, perhaps the best money spent on election right now is to create a civil attack, like send money to somebody with a bunch of iPhones in a room in some place somewhere, and tell them what kind of content that you want to see, that you want to demote or cover up, or I don't know.
Yeah, and just so everybody's following along with what we're talking about, in case this term isn't familiar to you, this is what we mean. So it's where you subvert a system's reputation system by creating a large number of pseudonymous identities and use them to gain a disproportionately large influence. And this is the thing that we're speculating is actually occurring here, is that there's some amount of this pseudo spoofing or whatever that's happening, where now we're being bombarded with this information and it's burying the real content on X, like, so that we can't get access to the type of information that we care about right before we're about to make crucial decisions about what's going to happen for this country.
Oh, well, what do we do, Grant? We're going into an election. This makes me question, it's one thing to question the polls, but this gives me, one good piece of news about the election, and regardless of the outcome, I was glad to see that the New York case against Trump was moving the sentencing back, because I could not imagine how that was going to play out without interfering the election, honestly. For Trump to be sentenced a month and a half before the election happens, and right when people are going into early voting, that did get moved back till after the election. I don't even know what's going to happen after that. I don't know if you saw that Hunter Biden had faced some charges.
I did see that. I think he's about to be found guilty of like multiple felonies, right?
Yeah, felonies with regards to tax evasion, but not some of what I would say were the more serious implications that were found on Hunter on his laptop when he left it at a computer repair store. So, and Joe Biden also said that he was not going to pardon Hunter for those felonies or for those charges. But I thought that was very, I don't know, and I don't necessarily care about, I don't care about Hunter Biden. I mean, but the fact that was an issue going into the last election, and that it was
just go back for just 2 seconds. Like this is what they're talking about with respect to Trump, right? That the sentencing got pushed back until after the election. Is this
yes. And I had seen a video of the military that had taken over a hotel. Some guy was walking along, saw some camo wearing members of I'm not sure what branch of the military, and he tried
the army. I thought it wasn't it the army?
Could have been, but I'm not for sure, and I don't know if they all wear those camo fatigues. Rusty, you might weigh in on this. But he was not allowed to enter the hotel, and I saw speculation on X as to whether that had to deal with concerns about violence breaking out in the wake of the sentencing of Donald Trump. I also saw James O'Keefe said that he had something more concrete as to why they were there, and that he was going to drop that information. I haven't seen more from him. But going back to Hunter Biden, I mean, the real reason that the Hunter Biden story drives me so crazy is that the 51 spies who lied and said that they thought it was that they suspected. I mean, if you go dig into the letter that they wrote, they don't actually come out and say it was Russian collusion, but they gave they gave a platform for Joe Biden to stand on during the debates, and say, "Look, all these members of the intelligence community said that this is Russian disinformation, or the and so that to me was the most damning thing about that. I mean, it was one thing to have the Comey letter in the election beforehand. That was one person. James Comey seemed earnest in his in his I don't know. He seemed earnest and honest. I begin to doubt that more. It seemed that he was used by the different political wings. Now, in the wake of the 51 spies who lied, I wonder if he had a better grasp of the politics that he was playing with leading into the election with Hillary and Trump. So
because it's just like as a point for what we've been talking about, right? So I wanted to pull this information up, the particular one about Joe Biden, right? So I typed in a little bit of something on X to try and find it, and this was one of the top posts that came up. So search is a really important part of like what happens in computer systems, like how a computer decides to respond to the types of things that you're typing in. In times past, that was mostly into Google. Then we have DuckDuckGo and whatever. And now we've got X. I think Reddit has been notorious for having terrible search, right? You search for something, you can never find anything on Reddit. And they've been partnering up with various different, individuals and whatever. But like to me, when you have little misspellings like this, that almost lends more credence to the fact that this is probably authored by a human because they made mistakes. When you have really perfect whatever, it makes me think that it isn't. But he had to grab this video footage, from somewhere. He had to prep it. He had to put it in there. This was posted, September 5th, 11K views. And it's like, how do you actually suss out some content that you could have some reasonable expectation of veracity to? I mean, like, what do you got to look at to get the right thing? If you dig into this account, right, it's got that weird inversion thing I'm talking about where, yeah, there's a certain amount of people, but like 9,000 following. Like, what is happening here?
well, there's and to delegitimize content, it's one thing to bury it and to hide it, but another thing is to delegitimize the source. And it's interesting to me that you search for this info. Do you get anchors? Do you get journalists? Do you get politicians? No, you get Magadonian Pokemon.
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 And look at some of the particulars of like what happened here. Like somebody had to go in and specifically pick that E character. Like that's not the regular E character. What are we virtue signaling here? Like, we got all these American flags. I don't know. Hard to know.
I mean, it would see if one that could be an actual person who's trying to get noticed, but again, why was that person chosen? Why not why if it was a MAGA mom, why was it not Cheryl Waterhouse from Caledonia, New York? There's a bunch of real people on X, or who list like factual details about them, or who appear something more than some crazy handle, and even a crazy handle that doesn't match up with their actual handle.
Well, and there was a time when social media built on top of traditional media, right? Because it was mostly pointers to here's stuff that's on from TV or whatever, like this is actual, real, genuine content that's being produced somewhere else, and now we're just referring to it and having a discussion about it. But with what Ellen has said is the rise of citizen journalism or whatever, we can start having firsthand accounts of things. And I like that too. I mean, honestly, I really appreciate it when I can get firsthand accounts of things that are happening. Like somebody goes out into, the West Bank or into Gaza and drives around and is like, look, it's destroyed. Like here's footage from this place. But even that, I think until we get to the point where we have the strong indication that wait, this was really shot on site. Like there's a lot of metadata and evidence that like what we're seeing is genuine, because at this point, we're at a certain phase where content can be generated synthetically. And so how can you really know if what you're looking at hasn't been subtly altered in a way that is manipulating you? Like it's starting to get really hard to figure out what's going on. Like even something like this, like how do you go look this up? Like how do you find this document when the way that the algorithm exists now, it tries to deprioritize anything that takes you out of X. Like, I would love it if this guy would have linked to the source right on this post, but now you have to bury it in like some sub post, where it's a follow on, because otherwise the algorithm is going to, bury something like this.
Interesting as you scroll down also to see that Waltz family, and I say that because one, I see that everywhere. I don't care. I I see the Kennedy family stuff also, but it's moreover gets more interesting to me to know that it's a Waltz family from Nebraska. That they're not that close at all to Tim Waltz, and yet we see that all the time. Is that because they're trying to legitimize MAGA or Republican support? Is that why that's being allowed through? Because that is such a superficial attack. Um, there are there's a lot of actual issues and content, from JD Vance, from Donald Trump, tons of clips from the interviews that he has had, and yet I don't see any of those. I see that Waltz picture over and over and over.
It's got to be because they're doing testing and that it's responding. That's actually driving the narrative instead of phone banking. This is what happens in campaigns now. You're generating social media content. You're doing tracking to see if it's pushing sentiment. It's, I mean, it has to be this kind of stuff that's occurring now.
Well, so also in the wake of the Trump assassination attempt, for maybe 48 hours, but probably not even that. I did, and I was actively looking. I was looking for videos that had been taken. I mean, we live in a world where somebody has a fight on the street, 7 people are standing around filming it, and so it was interesting to me um, to get so many live feeds of that event as it was happening from various vantage points around it. But now they've all disappeared.
I 100% agree with you on that. And I think this is another one of those usage of AI that I'm still shocked isn't happening, right? When you have a whole bunch of pieces of video that are all pointed at the same thing, we know for a fact that AI and our computer systems at this point can develop highly correlated, very accurate 3D models of everything that occurred if you have several vantage points. So if you have 10 cameras that are all pointed at the same thing and you have the feed from it, man, you can almost get like a 3D rendering of that entire scene just based on those 10 cameras that are pointed at it. And the amount of data that's collected from just your camera, your phone camera. And so, to say like that something occurred, or like where did the shot come from, like that's something that AI and our computer system at this point could answer in like seconds. Could say there was a bullet from here, a bullet from here, a bullet from there. And that whole business about there was a magic bullet, remember that whole theory that like, oh, maybe the reason that there's multiple exit and entry wounds from the Kennedy assassination was because of this magic bullet that just like turned around and like swam through all these different people. It's like, or the more logical is that there's multiple shooters, and in the Trump assassination there's like multiple vectors where you see innocent bystanders get hit from different places. It's like, why is it even a question about how many shooters? Because we should be able to establish that from the 20 different video feeds, and that should be the kind of thing that I would expect. that the FBI would say, hey, if you have a video of this, submit it here. We're doing an investigation. We're going to build this model. But I don't feel like that really happened that way.
Well, you would also have thought that they would be releasing that information instead of burying it until weeks later, months later. I was upset, distraught, also with the interference of members of Congress and any expectation that members of Congress had any power to get to the truth there. And to me, I don't know why we didn't have some expectation of the Supreme Court to. I mean, the DOJ is under is under the executive branch, and the FBI is under the executive branch. The Secret Service is under the executive branch. They all work for the president. This was somebody who is vying for that seat, who is, I don't think opponent is the right word, but there's a conflict of interest there. There's not a conflict of interest with the Supreme Court or the federal judiciary, and or at the very least the Pennsylvania. Like we should have seen something going on there, and had no expectation of the FBI, the Secret Service, the DOJ, or especially Congress, because Congress can't even hold a hearing without it being about proposed fixes to legislation, and they should have known from the get-go that that it was already a problem to be taking a department or an agency under the executive that was originally about seeking out counterfeiting, that had been co-opted to provide security for the president, and then that had grown into protecting the other candidates who were running for office. That's a problem. And if Congress had thought they were going to do anything about it, it should have been to send money directly to candidates to go out and find their own private security forces. But we should have seen the Justice Department, not the Justice Department, the federal judiciary, especially the Supreme Court. They should have been convening and using their powers of the federal court system to find out what happened there. But instead, everybody listened to all of these grandstanding senators and representatives, and we found out nothing.
And a lot of the news cycle just seems very soup of the day. You know, we do not have continuity on long running news stories that seem to be interesting. You know, it just doesn't seem like it happens. It's like, what are we distracted with today versus these more important things? Like, I think you're right on the money with respect to the Trump assassination. I mean, this is not an insignificant event. You have the number 2 contender for the big chair, for the chief executive, for the president of the United States, but for the turn of fate, he'd have been dead.
Well, I mean, look what happened when Bobby Kennedy did not withdraw from the race, but instead went to campaign for Trump, and the Biden administration revoked his protection immediately. You know, and there's other things that just blow my mind that we don't have, that we have no journalists tracking, and we have no information about. What happened to Alexander Smirnov? Do you remember who Alexander Smirnov was?
No.
Alexander Smirnov was the informant for the FBI who was dragged back into jail whenever the House was doing investigative hearings, even though they have no powers of investigation about the Hunter Biden laptop, and all of a sudden the Department of Justice said, "Oh well, the information that the FBI got, and we had been paying this man Alexander Smirnov off, and we just found out that he lied." lied, and we're dragging him, we're incarcerating him, but we've never heard anything about him. We've never, as we find out, the Department of Justice, the Internal Revenue Service, et cetera, all magically discover that the Biden laptop was real. He's just totally forgotten by politicians, by journalists, by everybody. Whatever happened to that story? Does somebody? Is this somebody who's following that? I don't know.
I searched on it because you started talking about it, so I was like, oh, I should pull something up, and now it's just got me questioning every time I pull something up. It's like, oh wait, but who is George Webb, investigative journalist? I mean, I remember a time when this sort of stuff used to be the purview of 60 Minutes and stuff like that, but did I pick this up because somehow X thinks we have a connection somehow?
I don't know. It's also with a V, Smirnov.
Oh, really? So he's got it spelled wrong.
Yeah. So you're following a journalist who can't even get his name spelled right. I did pull his indictments whenever it.
Yeah, look, it's right there. I can see it right there.
Yeah.
Smirnov.
Yep. So yeah, there's this, there's
Smirnoff like this. This is the vodka, right?
Yeah. Flavored vodka, mind you. So you can go back to work and not get caught.
See, no, this is probably why when you said Smirnoff like that. That's what I thought.
Yeah, whatever happened to Alexander McCormick's? That's the question. No, there's more that's been sort of jaw-dropping news that we've never even heard on X, like since, because we talked about the degradation of the news results that we see in X. In New York, there have been several politicians that have been charged or that were raided by the FBI. There have been as I forget, there's been a lot going on in New York lately with well, there's the Holchel there's the Holchel aid, but I don't know. I do not equate like taking money from foreign governments with like if somebody's being paid to trot out ideas, like why are we not engaging with all ideas? Why are we declaring that some ideas need to be silenced because they're being paid for or what have you? Like we should be we should have a meritocracy of ideas, at least, if not politicians. And there have been several seizures of gosh, there's two of them that are coming to mind that I can't remember, but there was even a crackdown of some New York State politicians that I saw recently, and I saw mention of those pop up and then just absolutely off the page. We should, I tell you what, I'm gonna dig into that, and maybe we will do an episode about what's going on there at some point. But right now, all I get are Karen videos and retaliation street fighting videos, and that also blows my mind because I silence that over and over, and I have a massive red flag whenever I see those, because I know that that a platform that is promoting that sort of content is trying to get an emotional reaction from its users, and to see that, it's one thing to see cute fuzzy animals and to see sports and to see feel good content. It's another thing to see people who are upset about politics. But when you see a platform that is promoting like violent videos, violence, aggressive behavior like that, then they are trying to manipulate your feelings. And so that's what and maybe not them, but somebody's trying to manipulate your feelings. Somebody is trying to manipulate you whenever you see aggressive emotional content, and that's happening right now.
Well, I think we should keep tracking this as a thing. Maybe we'll ask some folks on X if they're seeing a similar type of deal, but it's probably it for today.
Yeah, well, to any listeners, if you're having the same, what let us know what you see. DM us or add, send us a message, because I'm wondering if it's just us. If it's because we talk about the things that are on our mind constantly, and that often has to do with political content. But it's definitely happening to me. I was shocked to hear that it was happening to you also.
Well, maybe we'll spark a bigger conversation about what's going on here, because something is degraded. They've made some changes and things have gone poorly. So we'll keep an eye on it. But we'll catch you tomorrow.
All right, till then.